10 years ago they had this. Scenarios for the Future of Technology and International Development by your friends at the Rockefeller Foundation. And the Global Business Network. So you can download this off the internet. There's the title. And who wrote this one? Our friend Schwartz. Great. So it went from Gottlieb to Schwartz. So what's in here? Different scenarios. This is written in 2010. This is the playbook that Gottlieb wrote it from. So this talks about in scenario forms, what do we do with this? What do we do if the people don't listen to us? How do we clamp down on them? So it gives different scenarios because it expects that when they shut down traffic and travel and airlines and restaurants and schools and work, that the people might be upset and might have an uprising. You think that they haven't thought of that already? You think that there's not going to be, like these guys are carrying guns, you think they're not going to send some hot-head policeman over here and there's going to here or somewhere else, and they're the ones that are going to cause the problems. Because that's the way they do it. This is a beautiful thing on, doesn't have a page. Oh, there it is, page 18. Page 18. This is called Operation Lockstep. And this goes into how they need to make sure that all the politicians and all of the media are all in lockstep, and they're all reporting the same thing with because of growing citizen pushback. So they're anticipating that you're going to do it. They actually have what headlines they expect during Lockstep, and they have atrocious headlines about, oh, there was this riot and we put it down. So they have.
It almost sounds like Fahrenheit 451.
They have role. Yeah, but this is actually their.
No, I know.
This is the role of philanthropy in Lockstep. Thank you very much, Bill Gates. But we don't need your vaccine plan. So, but how to get philanthropy into it? Life in Lockstep, technology in Lockstep. So it goes through. Here's another one. Clever together. Another scenario. Highly coordinated, successful strategies emerge, addressing both urgent and entrenched worldwide issues. This is not the United States. This is the whole world. In fact, if you look at what the dollars and the currency in other countries, their countries are looking at our U.S. dollar as safer, while we're making our debt go from 22 to 30 trillion. How bad is this in other countries if you think it's bad here? So headlines in Clever together. Then here's one called Hack Attack, an economically unstable and shock-prone world. And it goes through all the same scenarios. Smart scramble in an economically depressed world. The UN put out a study that said 190 million deaths because of the reaction to COVID. 190 million, just to put that into perspective, 80 to 100 million World War II. So they're like okay with that. So that's that report. This is interesting locally. We have an emergency physician that I've been engaging on Facebook named Justin Fairless. Okay, this guy is plugged in. So, in fact, I was talking with Corey to see could we get him on camera having a debate where we could see what if anything, we agree on, and where we disagree. I feel that we're on two extremes. He thinks he's mainstream. But I said that I haven't met a restriction I like. I hate them all. And he hasn't met a restriction he doesn't like. He loves them all. So I think that would be a very interesting cage match. But what happened was this guy, he's said his credentials over the conversation. So it turns out he's on the board of directors for the American College of Emergency Physicians. He's an emergency physician at a hospital I previously had privileges at. He's got another internist who comes to his rescue also, and will say, hey, calm down, he's a good guy. And I'm like, yeah, but he's giving bad information. And they're trying to say I'm giving this information. I'm like, what specifically? And they're saying I'm attacking him. I'm like, how have I attacked him? I'm attacking the ideas, the concepts. So he's on task force. He is the EMS director, medical director. So he's been in charge of he's in charge of the firemen, the police response, and the ambulance response. There's he's going to be the doctor for the PGA tournament when Tiger Woods comes through Fort Worth. Just real, signs up for everything, and just the company man. And so he said that he had nothing to do with this joint statement on physician misinformation. But what happened was, there were two, what I considered reasonable doctors, who were in California. One of them is Dr. Erickson, the other one is Dr. Masahi. And these two doctors gave I didn't think it was an alarmist presentation at all, but they said, look, this is what we are experiencing here in Southern California in our 7 urgent care clinics. And they said, this seems to be in line with what some other people are finding also. We're only reporting on what we found here. When they were asked questions about what do you think of the politics or whatever, they tried to keep it toned down and just what they had actual knowledge of. And so they studied, so what happened is, I don't know if it was because of Justin Fairless, if it's you, take credit for it, but he's on the board of directors there. But in a rare joint statement by the American College of Emergency Physicians and the second biggest group of emergency medicine, AAEM, American Academy of Emergency Medicine, these people don't agree on anything. But they were able to agree that it's that these two doctors, you need to stay away from them, that they're giving dangerous information.
We had to move because of the noise over there, but continue on with what you were doing.
So what happened is they put out this joint statement and they just basically tore apart Dr. Erickson and Massey, saying that they strongly advise against using any statements of those two doctors. Honestly, they didn't say anything that was correct. So they talked for about an hour. So they went on to say, while ACEP believes practicing emergency physicians have valuable insight, you got to defer to Dr. Anthony Fauci as the most qualified at interpreting the data and making representations. And I ask anybody, has Dr. Fauci, is he the most qualified at interpreting this data? What kind of advice has he been giving our president? Some of this stuff is not just in retrospect it was wrong, it was wrong going forward, and it's wrong now. And if he has the data now that says that, we never needed to flatten the curve, then say that. Don't make up stuff and say, oh, we flattened the curve because of all of this stuff that we've done, when it's not true, and you have some states that didn't lock down, and others that did, and there's not a significant difference. And you have some countries that did, and some that didn't, and there's not a significant difference. And Sweden is actually doing a wonderful job of doing a lot of reporting, and actually taking the hit of like, hey, we have more cases and more disease and more deaths. Just a little bit more. But you know what else they have? They're going to be over this in 2 months, not 18. And they didn't tank their economy.
Yeah.
They didn't shut it down. So back to this article. The data cited by Dr. Erickson and Mahisi extrapolated from a small population. Their data is flawed, represents selection bias. Well, you know what? They were completely honest about what they did. They have 7 clinics, urgent care clinics, where they were offering tests freely. They weren't saying only by the CDC guidelines. Someone wanted a test, they did it. So they had like 5,213 tests. That's not a small number.
Right.
They called up everybody for the results and for follow-up. That's not terrible. It's not a scientific study, but they didn't say it was.
Yeah.
So their data was valuable. And this was an unfair hit piece.
Yeah.
By people who were vested in maintaining status quo and, and being alarmist, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And also telling other doctors, oh, stay away from them and don't you dare step out of line either. So they went on to say that in order to be extrapolated, the data must assure the population is homogeneous. They had the data that they had. They reported it. They said exactly what they did. It turns out that what they were able to report is they said, hey, this is a lot more common than is being reported. Well, what are we going to go with? Are we going to go with the data that says it's 0.03%? Or they were reporting it looks like it's more like 12%. Well, there's other studies all over the place that are showing it's higher. In New York City, it was like 22% at that time, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So the speaker discusses the fatality rate in New York, a fatality rate of 0.1%. Well, the truth is, it's actually less than that. But they don't want to say what the denominator is.
Right.
That it's 100 times what they previously reported.
Yeah, because they were. Yeah, I hear
and they
you.
want to increase the numerator.
Yeah.
And they want to say if you die of whatever, we're going to call it COVID, and Medicare is going to pay your hospital more.
Yeah.
So our doctor's getting pressured. The doctor's not getting paid more. The hospital.
The hospital, right?
But
Yeah.
the hospital is able to tell the doctors, hey, we're not going to be here much longer if we don't make some money, and we're going to make a lot more money if you just put COVID in there. Just put it in there. According to the CDC, you got an email that said you don't even need a lab test. Just call it if it's possible. So the next one was another. They were comparing it to the flu, and they were said they nitpicked on them because they said that they reported DNA in the virus when it's actually an RNA virus. You ask these people the difference between DNA and RNA. So Dr. Erickson was talking to the public. It's okay. There's like a smidgen of a difference between the two. That's not a valid criticism. I criticized someone else for that very mistake, but I was criticizing a healthcare professional who knew better. I'm not going to criticize Dr. Harrison for addressing the public for fudging RNA as DNA. So that you realize when they get to nitpicking, they're out of ammo.
Yeah.
They're looking for every critique they can have.
Yeah.
They had a panel write this from 2 organizations, and that's what they choose to bring up.
Yeah.
And they're saying that they said also that they were misleading the public, and that it could potentially lead to bad policy decisions. Are you kidding me? Their report could potentially lead to good policy decisions.
Yeah.
The projections, the models is what led us to bad projections.
Yeah. And there was that one. You probably know him. That one medical university professor out of Stanford.
What did he report on? I've seen a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. But he was basically saying that we have no reliable data.
Was he saying that a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
Because now we have serology.
Yeah.
And I was saying
that was a couple
serology is going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
No. I will say with testing that there's a lot of useless testing going on.
Yeah.
And so the report of we need more testing. So everybody now is saying we need more testing. Why do we need more testing? Because then we'll know what the incidence is. No, you won't. If they're saying that the world has 0.03% of the world has had this, and we have been doing twice the testing, 100% increase, we would be saying, okay, it was 0.06%. You're still off by orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
So if we increase it, we're going to increase it 50,000%? How much is that going to cost? They were criticizing these doctors from the American College of Emergency Physicians and American Academy of Emergency Medicine. Were criticizing Dr. Erickson and Dr. Massey for saying that they're profiting. They have a conflict of interest. And I pointed out that conflict of interest when I posted on my Facebook. I said, clearly, they get $200 a pop, plus the lab gets $70. It's not their lab. But clearly they're going to make more money if they do more tests and see more patients. And they were asked by the media that were interviewing them, and they made no bones about it. They said, look, that's our fee, and they're asking for more testing, and we're offering more testing.
Right.
And the truth be told, these are people from emergency medicine are criticizing these doctors for charging $200. Do you know what an emergency room visit averages? It's 10 times that.
Yeah.
So how are you? I mean, that's worse than the pot calling the kettle black. These are people who have no qualms with their right to charge $2,000, criticizing guys that are charging $200.
$2,000? Yeah. Anyway, that's on the cheap, I think. But
well, $2,000 average. I mean, they could easily run up a bill of $10 grand.
Yeah.
I mean, just absurd. And the thing about it is, why does healthcare always have to have that the answer is the most expensive? So what's the most expensive drug? I don't know, $100,000. Let's try that one first. Why don't we try aspirin first? Why don't we try nothing first? And see how that works.
Yeah.
So that was disingenuous by those groups, of which Justin Fairless is on the committee.